yeah, it's day two. What you gonna do? Back to Black Action Cinema, June jump off. I'm your host, Demetrius Angelo, and I want to thank everybody for joining us this Saturday afternoon. I know you're looking good. Uh, with your robe. How my man do it? What you doing? Where you at? Well, we're here back to black, baby. Anyway, I'm just so glad to have my esteemed guests with me for our 12 noon Indie Action Showcase panel. This panel is full of independent filmmakers, comic creators, and publishers. These are the folks that you about to see jump off, baby. This is why this is called the jump off. They about to jump off, jump up, and jump out. Come on, touch your neighbor. Say we about to jump off, jump up, and jump out. All right.
Is it Sunday or Saturday?
I'm not going to be greedy. I'm going to go around and call out our esteemed guests, and I'm going to let them say just a little bit about who they are and what they do. All right. So if you don't mind, I'm going to start off with the dynamic duo, Mr. Nuri and Moana McAdams. Go ahead, talk about yourself.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Moana McAdams. I am the editor here at the Wildcard Chronicles and publisher for Burning Spear Comics. I also host the Moana Nui podcast, where we highlight and celebrate and honor the indigenous contributions of indigenous, BIPOC, and African diasporan peoples all over the world. And I'm joined, of course, by my husband, Nuri.
How you guys doing? It's a rough morning for me, but I'm still getting it together. I'm Nuri McAdams, and I am the creator and writer for the Wildcard Chronicles comic book series. I also work out on behind the scenes stuff for the Moana Nui podcast.
All right, that works for me. That works for me. I ain't gonna tell all his business. I'm gonna let him keep some secrets. Them quiet ones you got to watch out for. You got to watch out for the ones that don't want to talk too much. That's the ones you want to be just real timid around. Be real careful with that. Okay. Now,
I'm probably gonna put that out there. My bad. Eventually, it will come up during this conversation.
All right. Before we move on, somebody's using a monitor with an extra mic, so I can hear the feedback from the extra mic.
Uh-oh.
So if someone's using two devices, mute your second device, not your first one, but your second. Okay, perfect. All right, next I want to go to my man, Mr. Barry Gaines, filmmaker and now film festival curator, what is it called?
Yeah, director, owner, the whole deal.
Okay, let's talk to us, brother.
Hey, what's up, everyone? How you doing? My name is Barry Gaines. I'm the owner and operator of a media company called Gaines Entertainment, where I just love, filming, action, sci-fi, fantasy films. And right now, under Gaines Entertainment, I have a series I've been filming for a couple years called A World of Worlds that you can see on Amazon. And that's part one, and part two comes out this summer. So look out for that. It's going to be really cool. And also now I'm actually starting my own film festival called Gaines Con, which is geared to the action, sci-fi, fantasy, and horror genre. So it's all about just kind of, hey, you know what? If you're in that genre and there's something that you have to contribute, you're a content creator of any sort, we want you in there. We want to show the world what we can do, and especially a person of color. We have to represent some more. We have so many out there that don't get the opportunity to show themselves and what they're doing now or what they have done in the past. Then you know what? I want to contribute to that with GainesCon. So go to gainescon.com. We're always looking for sponsors and donations to kind of help build this. This is not a game. This is going to be a start of something big and brass and just exciting. So everyone take a look at it. And also, too, take a look at my movie, aworldofworlds.com, where I actually debuted it on my man Demetrius's film festival, the Urban Action, and got an award for it. So that will really kind of jumped everything off for me. So much love to Demetrius and the gang.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Mr. Jan Luque, Mr. Hollywood himself. That boy is a bad man. JFH in the house, y'all. Jan Lucanis. First, talk about yourself and then introduce your esteemed filmmakers that are part of your platform.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Demetrius, for having us. I'm Jan. Hi, everybody. I've actually seen many of you before on Demetrius's platform, and have a profound respect for what you guys do. So I produce and am a co-creator of a project called Justice for Hire, and it's a show that we're producing with a community where anybody can join the cast and become a hero. The concept is Uber for heroes. You can hire a hero or become one and get paid. As a matter of fact, you could become a hero, a client that hires heroes, or even a villain. So we've been doing this, producing this for the last 2 years. Demetrius has been massively supportive. And this past November, we won Best Web Series at the Urban Action Showcase. And like Gaines, that very much catalyzed a lot of wonderful things happening, and took a lot of stuff to the next level. Well, we recently went viral on TikTok and just hit 7.5 million views. And everything we're doing, bring great creators together. It really spans beyond like the concept of even, just simply filmmaking, or should I say simply, or with quotes around it, the complications of filmmaking, and actually make it very easy for people to contribute to a larger story. And, we have a range of creators from, professional filmmakers to, kids that have never done it before. And, I'm very fortunate to be joined today by two of our wonderful creators from the community who have made their own Justice for Hire episodes completely on their own to add to the larger cinematic universe storyline. And that's Avell Juliet, aka Elixir, and our great buddy Z Peoples, who is known as Guru Merkaba in character. So we speak in character and out of character what we're doing. And we have an app that's live right now that you can check out at justiceforhire.app and contribute to the story as well.
Okay, ladies first. Miss Avell, make sure we're pronouncing your name properly. Talk about us if we're saying it wrong. Tell us about us.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Avell Juliet. I am a South Florida-based actor and yoga and Pilates instructor. And I met Jan years and years ago when I was living in New York, and we collaborated on the first episode. Well, actually, he asked me to be a part of the first episode. And since then, I have been just a really incredibly humble and fan of Jan and what he's doing, and helping create content and seeing how I can fit into this beautiful world of community that he is creating. And I'm just really humbled to be here and be a part of this this showcase today. So I'll end there.
Well, welcome. We appreciate having you. All right, Mr. Z Peoples, man, you're looking like Bob Marley over there. Boy, you better come with it.
Oh, you better believe it. It's a pleasure. As Jan said, my name is Z Peoples. I am a California Bay Area-based multifaceted entertainer and creative. Yeah, actually, I do everything from dance to acting to, producing, as well as, just writing and creating my own comics and things like that. But yeah, I actually came across this app and this whole cinematic universe through TikTok randomly, and all of a sudden I found myself swept away with the video that they created, and I wanted to be a part of it. And I've always wanted to be a superhero in my own way, and this kind of gave away for that. So yeah, I'm thankful to be here with all of these amazing creators. So pleasure.
Well, welcome everybody. We're just excited to have everyone with us today. I want to start the conversation off like that. Like,
oh wait, I don't get to.
Oh, my fault. No, listen, this is my fault. Let me tell you why it's my fault. Because Troy is my social media director, producer, whatever. So I'm so used to Troy being with me. No, it's true. It's true. I'm so used to him being with me that he's a part of me. So I forgot he didn't even talk yet. So my humble apologies, sir. Please Mr. Troy Jeffrey Allen, and he got some surprises for y'all if you go into the expo. But anyway, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I'm Troy Jeffrey Allen, a failed pro wrestler, career film student, which is a nice way to say that I didn't graduate with a film degree. I'm a comic book writer on top of everything else, and the marketing manager for Diamond Comics Distribution. My job is to talk about comics. I joke that I make fight comics for high school kids, and I'm very proud of that. And yes, I'm also the social media guy for Urban Action Expo, Showcase and Expo. So thank you, Demetrius. Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. Looks like my boy Vintage just joined us. Vintage in the house, y'all. Talk to us, brother. Talk to us.
It's a blessing to be on here like always, man. You got a lot of dope people here always, man. It's interesting to see what you got going on. So I'm just going to observe for a little bit because I just got on.
All right. My boy Vintage is part of the JFH universe. He's a filmmaker. He'll talk more about himself. But let me start off the conversation like this. I don't know how many people know, but I'm actually a filmmaker as well. I started out making films probably back in 99. Between 99, I started doing my own web TV thing. And then in 04, my partner, Lamar Wingster, and I joined forces to create ASC Troopers Touch Entertainment, which was about breaking stereotypes. So as filmmakers, we all have passion and purpose, right? So what I would like to talk about is the passion and the purpose behind your creativity as filmmakers, because as filmmakers or creatives, content creators, such as comic book writers and publishers and so forth, we all have purposes behind our passion. And it's good to understand that, because that's how we affect people, right? That those things come through our storytelling and our creation. So I want to start with the dynamic duo. I call them the dynamic duo. You'll figure it out why. But Nuri and Moana, talk to us about the passion and purpose of your creative.
Where do I start? One thing that really drove me to create is basically I got tired of other people telling our stories for us and making money off of it. So that's my main drive, is to promote images of people of color that you wouldn't see in mainstream media.
Yeah, and I would say for myself, very similar to what Nuri said, bringing more authentic storytelling. I mean, representation in media is really important, but where mainstream often fails is that they attempt to tell our stories, but they don't have the essence and understanding of what it's like to live in the culture and the nuances that happen, just being a person of color. When people try to whitewash our stories and it gets diluted, it gets misinterpreted. So I think it's really important for, creators of color, whether it be writers, filmmakers, production, all of that, you need to see us and have our stamp on the content all throughout the cycle in order for it to be something that will resonate with, our communities.
Can I get an amen? Can the church?
Yes, yes, sir.
There you go.
Yeah.
Troy, go ahead, because I don't want to leave you out this time, Troy. Go ahead.
I mean, look, I'm obsessed with mythology, right? And my big thing for many years now has been like, I want our stories, and when I say our stories, I mean all shades of brown, right? Like, and also to our Asian brothers and sisters as well. I want our stories to be treated the same way that a lot of these white stories get treated. Like, their movies are treated like classics. Their stories are treated like gospel, and especially in America, our stories don't get treated that way. Like, and I want to be able to create stuff that is going to be relevant now, but also will be able to be passed down for future generations and still be relevant then. And also just give people the characters that they deserve. So that would be my big thing. That would be my big contribution.
Mr. Gaines.
Yeah. Wow, yes, a lot for me too. I understand what Nuri and Moina was talking about, where to start, right? But to start with, say, my story, A World of Worlds, I wanted that story to really be like almost like a rainbow coalition. But really to start putting people of color in situations and moments in movies where you don't normally see them, where we need to get represented better. And that's why in my story, a sister is the hero. She's right in the front. She's right on the poster. She's the main one. She's the cog that actually moves everything. And then the first king that's found is a Puerto Rican cat, my name, Robert Rios. He is the first king, and you don't see that, and nor does the actors ever get placed or even chosen for any type of, subject matter or character like that at all. It's always like the same thing. Even if you want to get into it, you're always in the background, or you're number 2 or number 3, but never the one that's actually moving the storyline. That's actually saying, listen, this is why we need that person, or this story doesn't work. So in mine, that's one way I want to contribute to, even, to my people as well. But all in all, my story does kind of, the basis that it's not about what you look like, more than who you represent and who you want to be on the side of. That's really what it's about. But all in all, yeah. And also too, with this, I want to contribute to the actors, just to maybe repeat myself, but where they are not put in these situations at all. And I want to give everybody a chance. I want to give people a chance who have not had the opportunity to even be in the movie business, or even done a movie, or doesn't even, just want a chance. And I know how that feels, because I'm that guy. I was that guy. So that's why a lot of people in my production, a lot of times, haven't done anything in movies. Now, my actors are pros, don't get me wrong. Some are not, but most are. But behind the scenes and everything else, they're not. And I just like to kind of contribute to just teaching people, having people come as internships, learn what this whole business is about, how things are created, and at the same time represent people of color of all shades that, listen, we can do it all. You know what I mean? We can do it all. We've been doing it all. You just haven't noticed. And I'm saying, you know what? Well, here you go. I'm going to show you with my characters how strong my characters are, to the point where you may not even see what they look like, more than who they represent. So that's what I'm trying to do with mine. That's why World of Worlds is such a big story with a minimal budget, because I pretty much do everything. I do all the writing, I do all the directing, I do the sound editing, I do the editing itself, I do all the choreography. So pretty much one thing I don't do is the music and the effects. So yeah, that's one of the big things that kind of led me to what I want to do.
Yes, sir. Miss Avio, Elixir.
Hi. Wow. Well, listening to you all has given me a lot to think about. I come from a place of, my passion lies in connection and healing. And I feel that I have an opportunity with my work with JFH to create content that promotes allyship, as a white person, to be a better ally, and to promote content that addresses real life, situations, real world situations that are affecting, Black, Indigenous, people of color. And so I feel I have a duty to be, on the, it's quite cliche, I guess, the right side of history on this, and just to learn and unlearn and unpack and, be a better ally. I think that's my where my passion lies right now.
I need 1 million people right now to follow this young lady, because we need some folks with this type of mentality if you want to see change. Now, I'm not going to start preaching yet, because we got to hear from a few more folks, but that she brought us into my next phase. So let me get my boy Jan, and then Vintage, and then Z. In that order, you guys take it away.
Z's not going to start preaching yet, because when that happens, we have to pull it and remix it and turn it into trailers. Yeah, so the question of why, Demetrius, is I have so many reasons why, and as I continue to contemplate my own journey, I find more. So I'll just pick one. And I grew up in the comic book business. My father was a critic and writer, and his mentor was Jim Shooter at Marvel. And so I spent a lot of time at Marvel, at DC, at Valiant growing up, and Defiant Comics. But specifically with Marvel, my father wrote a Silver Surfer book. It was a huge part of my childhood. And this book never got published. And at the time when I found out that there were the challenges he was having internally of contributing his story to something he loved, and that there was any barrier, it upset me. It upset me to the point that at 11 years old, I boycotted Marvel, and I was just so upset that because I saw my father in pain. So it's amazing I forgot about that for years, but it's always been a part of my life. But I forgot about like that moment, and when we started doing Justice for Hire, and Justice for Hire is the first world that we're producing for our startup. We have a startup called Real World. REELWURLD, because you're in it, and the whole concept is to make movies and shows with the world, so that the everybody can join. And I just didn't really realize how important that was for me to see, my father, who I love and respect, and who to me is a superhero, not be able to contribute to a narrative. And so, to me, it makes a lot of sense why I care so much about creating a platform, creating a narrative, because a story is actually software, and so to an extent. And so when I look at a story, I'm like, everyone can add to this code. Everyone can build this out with us. There's no reason that one person should say this is and that's it. So story to me should be inclusive, and I think the greatest thing that Marvel has given us in popular culture as of recently is the cinematic universe, to see how thousands of characters, or at least hundreds right now, can interact in one narrative. Well, what happens if we just look at social media like that? And that's what our platform is. That's why we have an app that is a cinematic universe. The social network is the cinematic universe, and that's what Justice for Hire is. It's a story that anybody can contribute to, and we're focused on addressing real world issues from like an action filmmaking standpoint. So that's the why.
Brother Z in the house.
I mean, can we take a minute to just applaud these amazing leaders in all of these industries, especially pushing forward the consensus of making sure that there's representation out there. Because I'm right along with that train. My reason for creating all the things that I do is just for that. Is for representation, to be able to look at characters and be like, oh, I can see myself in them. Or I've always wanted to do voice acting. I didn't know that someone who looked like me is into that, or what have you. Contributing to that narrative, and then more directly, with JFH, being able to give you something more, kind of like what Elixir was saying. You're given a unique opportunity to create either a bridge or a new way of handling situations. And much like you, I don't want to get too preachy into it, but with how superheroes and things are usually portrayed, it's usually fly in, fight the bad guy, throw them in jail, that's it. But like wanting to give more connection, and actually address what you don't see, like the deeper root of why certain things are the way they are, or people do the actions that they do. Hurt people. And off my soapbox.
Yes, sir. Mr. Vintage in the house, y'all.
Yes, sir. So I grew up in a very diverse environment. Like everywhere I went was pretty diverse, because I grew up in New York City. And I never really got or seen representation on the mainstream media, which is why I'm glad there's such a common thought pattern now. Like, hey, we want to be represented too. But even so, I still feel misrepresented, like even with Crazy Rich Asians, it still kind of felt diluted, you know? Like the culture still felt very diluted. So I'm very grateful for all these different people speaking about it more and trying to hone in on the culture even more so, you know? And I think that JFH is also, personally, I think that JFH is a step forward from that too, because now it's pointing us towards our own uniqueness, not just our ethnicity, but our own individual uniqueness, you know? So it's really interesting to see how it's gonna come about. And I think Jen is on the right path, you know? Like it's not fully mastered yet because this is such a new and innovative idea, but I am pretty sure he's heading on the right path. So I'm just a vessel and a conduit to serve that vision, you know?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Now, as creatives, right? Obviously, we do it for the passion, but at the end of the day, we want to be successful. So I have something that I like to talk about, which is the process to success, because there is a process to success. Now, within that process, right, you're trying to create change. But whenever you're trying to create change, you have both challenges and solutions. So let's talk. We hit on it a little bit, and I'm gonna let you guys randomly take it however you want to, whoever wants to take it first. Let's talk about the challenges we have as creatives getting our message to the masses. And then after that, I want you to talk about the solutions that you've come up with individually to do so. So, for instance, if you don't mind, I'll start. I started at HBO in 1999. So I might be telling my age a little bit, but I started in 99. And in this corporate culture, I saw there was a construct that was hard to penetrate. Perhaps that's not the best word in these days, but that's what I'm going to say. And saying that, I saw that I won't be able to penetrate it, but I can give them something that will divert their attention to see that what I have is relevant, right? So, for instance, HBO is the founder of American Black Film Festival, which is called ABFF, Urban World Film Festival, East Asian Film Festival. When I say founder, I'm talking about founding sponsors. Latino Film Festival, and so forth. The Black Film Festival, Warrenton Hudlin. And I couldn't get in there as an action film creative that was independent because it was purely mostly a lot of creators from the colleges and of course professionals and so forth. So I said, okay, how can I leverage? Okay, that was my challenge, right? My solution was, okay, well, how can I leverage uh, my relationships to be able to present something that's similar but different, but similar enough for them to say, okay, I'll give it a chance, right? So, long story short, in 2012, I pitched the Urban Action Showcase. I said, okay, well, why not, since Cinemax now is a content creative platform versus acquisitions, which they were, which is the sister brand of HBO, same company. Warner Brothers is the parent company now, Warner Media, just a little bit of history. But anyway, I said, okay, why not have Cinemax as the sponsor? Because Cinemax never sponsors any film festival, and it's an action festival. And they said, okay. They might have said okay because they like me, but they said, okay, I give it a chance. Okay. Now, I'm making it sound a little simpler than it is, but
Of course.
because we
Yeah, of
don't
course.
have a lot of time. But anyway, that being said, that's how it happened. Then the challenge was, how do I break through this thing called social media? Remember, we're talking about 2012, 2013. I don't remember, that's 9 years ago now. How do I break through this thing to get people on board, to get people to understand that now you have something that's going to represent you in the blockbuster genre, right? So that was a struggle for me. And I lost everything that year, lost it all. A lot of things happened, but a lot of great things happened, right? And speaking to Janicia Adams Ginyard, one of the Dora Milaje yesterday, she said it the best, that your sacrifice will never outweigh the reward. So that being said, from that point on, I continue to be a sacrifice so that people will have a place where they can be represented. So that was my solution. My solution was the sacrifice. So whoever else wants to take it. So I want to challenge, then solution.
Demetrius.
You just muted. Go ahead. You just muted. You just muted yourself.
Oh, okay. I thought I unmuted. So I have to jump in here on the concept of sacrifice and that relates to surrender from my experience, and having worked. I first of all thank you for all that you consistently do, and for sharing that story. I think the process of surrender, sacrifice, surrender is such an important thing to keep in our hearts as creatives. As leaders, it's a huge deal, because when I was working on Justice for Hire is based on a comic book series and we had a bunch of short films, and I was running around Hollywood with some wonderful esteemed advisors, going to across studios and trying to make this work, make a Justice for Hire feature work for years. And what I was recognizing is that some of the challenges that I was experiencing, not just myself, but watching other people experience in terms of whether it's breaking through or getting their expression through a system that is really not built for their expression, is that I was attempting to do it my way rather than surrendering to what essentially higher power, whatever you want to call higher power or greater good, surrendering to what the tools actually, or what the world needs, and what the tools I've been presented with, how they can serve, how I can serve. And when I started surrendering to that feeling of allowing myself to be an instrument, literally everything changed overnight. And that was probably in 2018, because I was still trying to figure out a bunch of stuff, and just getting to that place. And that's a story for another time, but essentially it catalyzed us shooting Justice for Hire, me writing a script one night, starting to shoot the next week with Avell and a bunch of other wonderful actors. And then, a week later being accepted into Demetrius, your 2018 Urban Action Showcase, where we won Best Trailer that year. And that just got everybody excited, and a lot more energy came. So it was, there's a whole process here, and it's a consistent process of essentially me removing my ego and my need for something, and just listening. There's so much listening that happens, and pattern recognition. So to me, that's I just had to jump on that, because that the sacrifice, the surrender, to me is a core component that especially when I even look at what people to a certain extent are fighting against. The system itself, I look at how the system served us, because the system did serve us to an extent to get to where we are now, where we realize that we need change. So, as in the grander scheme of things, which this becomes a philosophical conversation, but, in the grander scheme of things, like the so much is working off of being an instrument to what the process of the evolution is. So, I think all of us on this panel are very much a process of the change that is necessary and that is coming, and we're actually building it with our hands. So, yeah.
Yeah, I gotta jump in there too about the sacrifice. I hear you, brother. I know we all sacrifice something to create whatever we have created already or will be doing soon. And when I started, I started making movies when I was pretty much literally 10 years old. I mean, we just had a camera back in the 80s. I'm showing my age too, with big Hitachi camera and everything else. But as time went along and life happened, steers you in certain directions. And I remember about 6 years ago when I moved to Florida. I'm a New Yorker, born and raised, but I moved to Florida 7 years ago. It was that time when I said, you know what? I'm a big fan of blockbuster films. Always been since I was a kid, and one of the biggest reasons, not only because it's a spectacle and it was fun to watch, but just the mechanics of it, just to kind of create something that large and kind of putting it together where the audience can actually enjoy it. That to me was a challenge I wanted to attempt. And when I saw all this, I never saw anyone pretty much look like me, or even my Spanish brothers or my Asian brothers. Like, like I say, I was born in New York too, born and raised. So I grew up in a lot of diversity around me, but it was always leaning to one side. So I said to myself, self, let's do this. Let's take all of the movies that inspired you and then kind of create your own. But this time we're going to put people in situations where we always thought they should be. And that's why in my story, World of Worlds, that's when it started, to the whole point of saying, you know what, I'm going to make, everyone has a large history. I mean, every culture pretty much does, but ours are not represented that way. So I said I wanted a sister in the front with an accent, Haitian, coming in and kicking ass. The king is one of the kings, there's 4 of them. All 4 kings represent pretty much almost all of the cultures that we have in the planet, broadly, and I wanted that. I wanted that rainbow coalition. I wanted that kind of saying, listen, we are one, but at the same time, we do have certain qualities that we need to start representing. There's certain images that need to be represented, and that is why I again put ahead a sister in the front, a Puerto Rican cat as the king. But everyone gets their piece. It's not like it's all one sided. It really isn't. As it's all separate. And that was a way I wanted to contribute myself, and a cause that I felt that should be represented was through my story. So I went ahead and just did it. And the sacrifice on that was I don't know money. It's kind of like I'm over here working and whatnot and trying to pay my mortgage and everything else. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to have to learn. So the sacrifice was just putting all the money myself. Nobody was really helping me. I mean, I had little donations here from family members here and there, but not, a little bit here and there, but everything was coming through me, which took the production a couple years to even get off the ground, just to kind of get together. And that sacrifice, everyone can see that. And I think that's what gravitated a lot of people in my direction. And it still does, being that I have number 2 coming out. It's the same way. But I knew and I know that what I'm doing and what I'm trying to tell, the story I'm trying to tell with the people I'm telling, is going to hopefully inspire others saying, you know what, I didn't think I can actually do something like that with hardly nothing. And on top of that, put a person of color in front of it and just make it where, it's not like the average movie you always see, especially when it comes to a blockbuster film or a big sci-fi action horror film or something like that. Something with some gumption, something that when you see it, you go, wow, that's really, really big. And it makes sense. Because I've seen that before where they do put us in the front, but really the movie's not that well done because they didn't really care too much. They're kind of like, okay, let's just throw them a bone. Here you go. All right, you're in the front now. Now leave us alone. I didn't want to do that. And I hate when I see that. And we all know, and we all see that a lot. And we know we do. You may say, oh yeah, that's a big movie. That person's in front, but it's really a throwaway. And the ones that were really great, the ones that are really well done, we're not in the front, we're in the back with the third or fourth. So I just wanted to say that about my film, and that's what my film represents. And my film is a very large story. So yeah, sacrifice is hard, brother. It's hard.
Dynamic duo.
It's a lot. It's a lot of sacrifice. First of all, them long hours, working the job in daytime, at night, getting in, doing all your work for your creative stuff, because you want to invest in you. When you work in somebody's job, you're investing in them. You're sending their kids to college. So I always say things like this when trying to, get people to be motivated. If you work from 9 to 5, then you got from 5 to 9 to fix it. Okay. That's how you work on yourself. You have to invest in yourself. That's the only way this works. And because of that, 5 to 9 to fix it, you're really tired. I mean, you're really tired, but you got to keep pushing forward, especially when you have motivations like, I'm doing this for my people. Period. Because we need to be able to tell our own stories. And like I said, going back to the reason why I got into this, when you look around in media, comic books, whatever it is, if you take the African and Asian influence from those platforms 80% of the industry will fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
You yank Asian and African and foundational Black American presence, and the whole industry falls apart because they got nothing without it. And you can see it throughout their stories. I was even when I was young, in my teens, and I'm looking at the X-Men, and it didn't take me a hot minute to realize this is ripped off from Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. I realized that in my teens, and they're making a ton of money off of it. So I said, you know what? Enough is enough. We can create our own characters. I don't need any handouts. Because I'm old school Marine Corps, I'm savage in battle. So when I go into a situation, even if the odds are stacked against me, I already know I'm gonna win because that's how the Marine Corps taught me to be. I don't care what I'm up against. So that's why you'll never see me asking Hollywood or Marvel. I ain't worried about DC or Marvel. Have you seen their comic book sales lately? They about to close up shop. You know why? Because they done lost connection with the streets. They sitting up there in those ivory towers. They have no clue of what's going on in these streets. I met people that we're talking young kids, don't even know who Stan Lee is. So if they can tell our stories and make money off of it, we should be able to tell our stories and make money off of it. So that's the motivation, because I'm in this for my people. I'm in this for people of color, because nobody's going to stand up for us. So I understand that power is exclusive, not inclusive. So if you want that spot, you got to man up and take it. You got to get it like Grant got Richmond. You got to take it from them. And I give you a prime example of what I'm talking about. I don't have to tell them we're great. We just show them that we're great, and they'll get out of your way. Prime example. It was a time MTV wouldn't even allow us on their network. Wouldn't even allow us in those early years. They would never put people of color on there until one day, one man danced across the stage yelling Little Red Corvette. The other one moonwalked across the stage yelling Billie Jean, and then they couldn't deny us anymore. They had to put us on there. So we didn't knock at the door, we kicked it in. And that's the attitude you have to have. I don't want any handouts from you. Don't put a black face on Iron Man. I don't need that. Keep your IP. We have our own. That's my motivation.
Yeah, and I would also add to that from the resource perspective, right? Because, most of the resources lay in the hands of white people, right? So the challenge there being that, if you're publishing a book, so I'm a children's book author, we have our comic book series, right? If I was to go and pitch to all these publishers, I already know I'm going to get shot down. They get thousands upon thousands of things, pitches. I mean, we see them at Comic-Con, right? Like artists bring their stuff and everybody gets shot down when really they're just taking your stuff and, trying to use it for their own gain. But as independent creators, a lot of the challenge is economic and resources. But you have to find ways to overcome that and really, truly, like Nuri was saying, invest in yourself, like fight for it. Like for us, we invest just about everything that comes into this house right back into our creations because we feel like that's important. Some people go out and they buy, they have whatever their vice might be, right? Whether it be I want a nice car, or I want designer clothing, or, I want a bunch of Jordans, right? Like whatever it is that you put your money into, like that's really what you care about. So as a community, I think it's also important for us to remember that if we stand out here complaining that we don't have representation, then we need to remember that it is our duty and our responsibility to reinvest our resources, whatever small it might be. And it's really not small. If you look at our global, the Black people as in general, like what our economic power is, it's up to us to unite that to create the things that we want to see and stop putting our money into the companies that are not serving us anymore.
Vintage, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I wanted to jump in to what they were saying about how we shouldn't be chasing, we should be essentially developing our own gravitational pull, because we inherently already have that, because of what we're doing, who we're about, and just everything, our creativity. So yeah, I think we just got to keep creating our, vision, just materializing, and then it's just going to fall, like the finances, like the attention is just going to fall in, and yeah, I had a little bit more to say, but yeah, that's all for now.
I just want to hear from her because she's gonna be quiet over there. I want to hear from you, young lady. Elixir.
Oh boy. Honestly, I think that my surrender is coming. I don't, there's an amount of sacrifice as an actor that is kind of like written into the manual that I honestly haven't fully committed to. I didn't, scrape the bottom and move to California or, and eat ramen noodles and live out of my car. Like I made a choice not to do that. And so the question that's churning in my brain now is what's next. And so what will be sacrificed, what surrender I will have, what sacrifice will be made to start creating the content the way I want it to be seen. And as actors, we hear things, we say things to ourselves like, instead of waiting to be invited to the table, build the table, right? So instead of waiting to like finally get that audition for that commercial, whatever it is, like, just start making your own content. So that's where I am currently kind of swimming in this pool of ideas with the help of Jan and JFH to find my confidence and my voice to start creating stories the way I want them to be seen and how I want to be portrayed in that. And so long story short, I think my surrender is coming.
Listen, revelation. You got to have self-revelation in order to know where you're going. Mr. Z.
So instead of waiting to like find.
Well, so yeah, I mean, for myself, I guess I'll give like an example of just one of the things that I do. So in voice acting, shouts out to Black Sands Entertainment, by the way, a publishing company that's doing big things in the community. But I remember trying to break into voice acting, trying to break into the industry somehow in some way, shape, or form, and I even auditioned for them about 3 years ago to be a voice in their motion comics and eventually their animation, and I got shot down immediately. So like it was like, we can't even hear you, your audio's too low, and that moment created a catalyst where I could either have sat back and been like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that, I didn't get that role. Or I could apply intentional and sustained focus in order to, upgrade my abilities, upgrade my craft, upgrade the knowledge that I could have and I can apply to this. And I did, like I purchased things, I took more classes, I got more into it, understood how to do audio mastering and things like that. And, balancing levels and, improved my acting and, using things like JFH to be able to really force myself into situations where I'm putting forth all of the knowledge that I've acquired. So creating that intentional, sustained focus. And then sure enough, 3 years later, I ended up, auditioning for them like 3 more times, didn't get any of the roles. And then they hit me up and was like, hey, we have a casting for this character. Do you want to be a part of it? And I was like, yeah. They're like, okay, audition for it. And I was like, oh, come on. and I ended up auditioning for it. And turns out it was the character that I first auditioned for 3 years prior. And I ended up getting the role. So I play Seth, who is one of the, kids to kings. But yeah.
Cool. That's in the new Black Sands, what is it, animated series?
Yeah. Absolutely. They have an animated series coming out, and right now you can check out their Black Sands publishing app. It's kind of like Webtoons or Comixology, but created for the BIPOC community and showing lots of representation.
Mr. Troy Jeffrey Allen.
I'm listening to this and I'm thinking to myself, there's like something going on in the Zodiac calendar, or is this the year of change or something like that? Because I'm sitting here nodding and agreeing with a lot of everything that everybody said. I think for me personally, and very personally actually, I just had to stop caring. You know what I mean? I think that, knowing what not to care about versus knowing what you should care about, that has been a big thing for me. Some of that was caused because of 2020. I know that's probably the case for a lot of us. But yeah, like just kind of recognizing that, it's okay to kind of kick the brakes off and just say, like, I'm going to take the reins. I think I've been making comics since 2008. And I had to kind of recognize last year, and I've had this recurring thought, but the challenge for me was kind of like I've been collaborating and hiding behind other people, and that's not really a great way to kind of find your own voice, and so last year I kind of made a conscious decision to just branch out on my own a little bit. I still have my partnerships. I still, you still need collaborators, of course, especially in comics. But in terms of the words that are coming out the characters' mouths, the type of stories that need to be told, the type of stories I want to tell. That's all me. And the transition really happened for me late last year when MF Doom passed away, because I didn't realize this at the time. But MF Doom was kind of like a muse for me in a lot of ways. And he was one of those people that made it made it clear to me that it's okay to be weird. It's okay to be fringe. It's okay to not be mainstream. And I knew these things, but I had to kind of come back around to him. And his passing, I feel like, forced me to come back around to it in a way that inspired me to make a comic about him, which I put out back in April. And so that's the beginning of a year of just a general transition for me. And that was the challenge. The challenge was just kind of getting over myself. Like, that's the best way I could put it. So, I can't even blame white people for that. That's just me. I had to push past it and recognize, like, no, it's my time, and just kind of be like, the hell with it. I'm gonna do what I want to do now.
Sure enough.
Yes,
Hell yeah.
sir.
Hell yeah.
Now, conversations like this can go on and on and on and on, but we're limited in time. So I would like to know from each of you, what's the number one thing that fans or people who say, oh, we don't have representation, what's the number one thing that fans can do and each other can do to support one another, to support your efforts, your platforms? First, what can they do to support your platforms? And second, what can we do to support each other?
Oh, can I go first?
Please.
Actually, I think it was Nuria Moana said this earlier, and I was like, yes, that's everything. I work in comics. I work for a distribution company. I deal in marketing. I have to deal with the fans all the time. And one thing I want to reiterate to the audience, and I'm not saying this to be mean, I'm just saying this is a statement of fact. You do not own these characters. You know what I mean? And I see people sometimes standing real hard for these Disney and WB properties. No knock on either one of them, right? But there's a limit to how much of a say you have and how much you should be investing in those things. And I see a lot of chatter, especially in the Black nerd community, about like these IPs that belong to these major corporations that are predominantly white. And I think that it's important that we recognize, look, there are Black creators, or Asian creators, or Latino creators who are doing great work, and they're trying to appeal to you and trying to represent you, and they are targeting you. And it's important that you don't fall for the okie doke, because these corporations are very savvy, and they know very much how to check a bunch of boxes to make something sound good and look good, but in actuality, it's not real representation. It's just a checkbox. You're just a number to them, and that's all they're really requiring is like your eyeballs for a couple hours, just so they can pat themselves on the back. And I think that it's important that fans in particular, and the audience in particular, really recognizes that and is a little bit looks at their entertainment with a little bit more scrutiny. And I'm not even saying necessarily that all entertainment has to be focused on real world issues. I'm just saying, like, I just want my entertainment to be authentic, and I would hope that the audience understands that too, or begins to get hip to that. So,
yeah, if I could just chime in real quick too about this, I think when it starts with the fans, I think the fans, of course, just those that always want to see something, they finally see it, start supporting it. You hear a lot of people saying, they should show this and they should have that and have it. And then when you put it out there, they're nowhere to be found. I think that you just should, if you want something and you finally get it, go ahead and support it. Go ahead, reach out, buy some merch from them, do something where it will strengthen that content to move further. And then I want to just kind of segue really quickly. I won't spend too much time on this, just a minute, on people of color or just our people in general that do have the power to make something big. I think that, with my story, I look at it as if I can do it the way I want to, it'd be a big, big movie, like $150 million movie. That's how I look at it. But when we have the power to make something big, when we have the resources to make a blockbuster or just make something where the representation is going to be big, the same way Marvel did with Black Panther, why don't we get together and make those? Stop making those where it's just really simple and it's in and out and you're done. Make something where you say, you know what, we are going to blow the door open. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Just like the dynamic duo mentioned before. You have to blow the door open. The only way to blow the door open is to make something that people cannot deny you at all. Meaning that you said, you know what? If we want something big, let's put our funds together. Let's put our minds together and the resources and make a $200 million freaking movie already. Make a $180 million freaking blockbuster already with us alone. We can do it, but they don't want to for whatever reason. I think that is one of the biggest supporters that we need to be concerned with. We can always make an average film. Everyone can do that. That's not a big deal. When I see my man in Atlanta that has the big studio now, I look at it as if this is what I say to him. Now make something that's going to blow it up. I don't want to see the regular stuff up with the dramas and the comedies and things like that. Everyone can make that crap. Anyone can. Make something where it says, you know what? We're going to make the next Lord of the Rings. We're going to make the next Star Wars. We're going to make the next, Gladiator. Why not? What are we waiting for? You know what it is? Unfortunately, a lot of times they say, well, that's just not us. We just don't know. Well, you know what? That's a you problem. You better get your shit together and understand that nothing is going to change unless you have shown that you have changed yourself. Stop making things so easy. Make it hard. Make the 5 years into it. Get those Oscars. Get the whatever you have to, because then everyone out there who always said, I don't know, we can do that. Now those kids, those content creators are now saying, oh, shoot, I guess we could do it. But right now we don't. We just don't.
Mm-hmm. To that point, you talking about 5 years. James Cameron said he waited, I think he said 40 years or whatever he said to make that Avatar. What was he said?
Well, it took him about 25 years. It was
Avatar, right?
And look what he's doing now. He's like, I don't give a damn how long it takes, because realistically, guys, I don't want to take your time out real quick. I'm just saying that the people who pay us to see our content, the fans that love us, that inspire that inspired by us, don't give a damn about how long we take. They worry about what we put out. So stop. I always say, stop trying to rush. Stop trying to get it together. They don't care. No one cares about your DP and your editor. Who gives a shit? What they care about is what you're representing. How did you put it together? That's what they care about. Because we do the same thing, right? We go to movies right now. We're all creators, but we still look at the thing in general. We still look at the content in general, sit in that cinema or go on TV and put on that HBO Max or whatever, sit there and just watch it in general. We do, right? We're not scrolling through his credits saying, well, who's the writer and who's the editor? We know that that's what works, that what makes it happen. But all in all, the world, they don't give a damn. So that's why when Dimitri just said, yeah, how long did James Cameron say he's going to make this? 25 years he did. And look what he's making the next one. Damn near 12 years later, he's going to number 2 on Avatar, because he said this is about legacy. I don't give a damn hell how long, because when it comes out, it's going to break your face. So that's what I'm saying. So that's how we have to do it. And that's how we have to come and break people's faces with our stuff and stop worrying about being so doggone timid. Just me. And that's how I roll my stuff. So that one. Go ahead. My bad. Keep on going.
Next, who want to chime in? We got 5 minutes.
I want to chime in because I'm definitely right along with Gaines, everything he was saying, particularly the legacy part. John and I, we knock heads sometimes in terms of like how long, like when are we gonna do the next one? I'm always like, when's the next one, babe? He's like, it's gonna come when it's gonna come. I'm working on it. I'm building it, like, because he has the vision in his head, right? It's not just I'm gonna put out a comic. It's the same thing. Like in his head, he's like, this. I want like blockbuster movie. Like if I had all the resources, very much what Gaines said. Like we want to smash people's head, and you're gonna see us, and this is the movie that you are gonna remember of your lifetime. Like, damn, that was dope. Like. And it also not just be a big blockbuster, but be very true and bring our cultures and the histories, the very rich histories of our people forward in a way that has not been done before.
Well, so real quick, it is a lot about legacy, and I don't like to put anything out until I don't do anything half-ass. Anybody that knows me knows that. Okay, a lot of my stuff is blatant and over the top, but I do that for a reason, because like when we set up at Comic-Cons, a lot of the artists and things like that, they can't afford to be, especially with the big ones like San Diego and New York, they can't afford what it takes to get there, but they're talented. So what we do is, no matter what convention we at, the ones closest to home, the more elaborate the setup. And Demetrius can attest to that. My setups are pretty elaborate. But it works because, we're up there at New York Comic-Con near the Marvel stage. We use that platform to bring in people who really can't afford it. We let them sit at our table so they can have a spot. We bring indie creators with us. We build these platforms and we bring all these indie creators with us so that their stuff can be seen. Mm-hmm. So that's how we give back.
I am a witness. Listen, I'm a witness to the point.
Curious now.
Listen, I'm a witness to the point. He don't even answer me. I'll be like, where you get that from? Cricket. I done asked him that 2 years ago. He ain't told me yet. But they don't play games, y'all. The only game they playing is Monopoly, and they playing to win. They ain't playing that. Just want you to know.
Nice.
All right. We got 3 minutes.
Demetrius, I got to chime in here on because it's multiple things. I want to address the fans, the concept of the fans. Before I do that, what we're seeking is inevitable. Mm-hmm. And I think it's super important to recognize that, because one, we have people have been empowered. Black Sands is a great example, but there are many other examples of what's happening in equity crowdfunding right now. We're about to launch our own equity crowdfunding campaign for Real World, and anyone can own a piece of our company and help produce Justice for Hire and all the other worlds as well. But simultaneously, what's also happening on at the major corporation level for both Disney and Warner Media is essentially the format of the intellectual property development is being doled out across the world to essentially help other sectors of the world create other cultures create stories in the same format of the stories that we're very used to, the Hollywood blockbuster. This was announced a while ago. It's in process right now. It may not be as authentic as we want it to be, but there's attempts that are happening right now to serve global communities. And in fact, it's such a push that's happening that I honestly believe that there's going to be a void in America, in like the core of American creativity, because there's so much that's being outsourced to these other countries. And the first of which is Raya the Last Dragon. This is a great example, and it's wonderful. But we, as the culture that brought comics to the world, that brought hip hop to the world, that brought Hollywood to the world, that is America. And so we have a responsibility to do not just what we've seen, but to do something completely new. And we have all the resources to do that because the majors are looking outward. So that's one thing I wanted to say. The other thing is that I honestly believe that Avengers Endgame was the greatest moment in community filmmaking in terms of all of us watching one thing together that we've experienced in many of our lifetimes, except those who might have experienced the Star Wars. It's that and Star Wars. So essentially, for my lifetime, it's Endgame, and I don't think we're ever going to get anything better than Endgame unless the fans, all of us, are on that screen too. I believe that the next step and the next evolution of story is your story. And the empowerment of your story and being able to share it with the community, that's what Justice for Hire is about. That's what we're doing with Real World. And that's, I honestly believe, is going to be a major sector of the film and television industry worldwide. So I say to fans, if you're looking to be a part of something like that, you can meet us on justiceforhire.com, justiceforhire.app, go to realworld.com and check out what the company is that's producing all of this, and join us on our equity crowdfunding campaign when that happens within the next month. But yeah, that's my closing statements for. Thank you, guys.
All right. Well, we're going to use that to say goodbye. First of all, let me thank each and every one of my guests: Nuri and Moana McAdams, Avil, Juliet, Troy, Jeffrey Allen, Barry Gaines, Jan Lucanus. Didn't even tell you his name because he just put Justice for Hire there, but that's okay. Vintage, my boy Z Peoples, who I don't know what happened. He just transcended. He must have just transcended. He done transcended. But one thing I would like everyone to do before you go, please put your IPs in the chat, so when people come to this video, they will see that there are people that they can support that will represent their vision and their purpose. Mr. Z, oh, he's back. Appreciate you, Brother Z. Please put all your contacts in the chat. I want to thank each and every one of you once again. And please keep creating, regardless of how many no's. You know, you can say yes to yourself. And when you say yes to yourself, you're actually saying yes to others. Because when we realize that our gifts are not for ourselves, but for others, no one, you know, very few of us have gifts that benefit us, right? Because they're already in us. So our gifts are for other people. So keep creating, keep doing what you're doing. And to everybody out there, support it. Put your money where your mouth is. That's how we used to say it back in the day. Because wherever you sow, that's where you harvest. Oh, I feel like preaching right now, real quick.
All right.
Seed time and harvest. An apple produces an apple. An orange produces an orange. So if you want to see the fruit of creativity, the fruit of diversity, sow into these platforms right here. All right. Wildcard Chronicles, JFH, Rexco Comics. Okay. Black Sands, The World of Worlds. Okay. Please do that. Go to the comments. You'll find it there. Until then, be safe. Visit the Urban Action Expo. We're here all week. You can get private chat and personal messages from the Dora Milaje that help put a beating on Bucky and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Miss Janisha Adams Ginyard. Boy, they dismantled the boy. The boy arm was on the floor. Anyway, appreciate y'all. Love you.
Damn, that's what you're talking about, man.
Peace.
All right, peace, guys.
Thank you so much.